any news from Retail the government says, don't worry, we're going to nationalize every bit of healthcare in the entire country, but don't worry, there won't be any corruption this time. Pinky promise.
Yeah, I mean, this actually used the exact phrase that the government used, and that is, you can rest assured that the NHI will be safe in our hands. Yeah, safe in ANC hands. You heard it. I don't know about you, Ramon, but I don't rest assured. I don't believe him. Do you remember the 500 billion, which Ramaphosa told us would definitely not be stolen and every penny would be accounted for? I'm getting weird kind of matrixy vibes here, like it's a return to, the past.
I mean, this is like asking your pedo uncle to become a nursery school teacher. Like, you can trust me this time, despite the history of, terrible actions by the pedo uncle. Like, the ANC is that pedo uncle. They want to take away everything. They're using it for grift, for graft, for corruption, for themselves. They have no argument whatsoever other than, we won't steal it this time. But that's the only thing keeping the ANC together, is stealing it all the time.
So, Ramon, when the minister turns around and tells you, you can trust us, he actually highlights the Auditor General's report. And he says, the Auditor General tells us, we're actually pretty good with health. Except they don't. So, when a person tells you, trust me, I'm not lying, whilst lying, I don't know how that actually fosters trust. But the Auditor General actually came out and actually debunked the health department, which is rather rare. They said, I'm going to quote, they say, health facilities are not coping with the demand for health services, and the safety and security of citizens and businesses are under threat. The Auditor General then goes on to basically say how, in the grandest of ironies, nothing in the health department works, and actually only 4 out of 10 actual budgetary reports where they actually, do assessments on whether or not the health department stole anything, only 4 out of 10 even get submitted. The rest just disappear. So I'd like to know, on what basis does this guy actually say, like, trust us, guy? Your money's safe with me? It sounds stupid.
Well, I mean, think of the standards you have in front of you, Byron. As someone who understands and knows the public health sector quite well, I mean, the amount of graft is just shocking. So for the ANC minister to say, you can trust us this time, it's because it's going to be moderately less corrupt than what the existing system is. Like, that's what it means for them. That's a win, right? In the public eye. A win is it's 5% less corrupt than what currently exists at any given moment. But, in terms of an argument for the NHI, I think they're running out of them. Right? I mean, trust us, bro. Trust me, bro. There's my source. It's like when you say, name your source. Trust me, bro. Like, that's basically your argument. It's like we're not going to steal it this time. There's no overarching messaging about why the NHI is so great and why we need it and what benefits it will give to the people of this country and all that shit. None of that matters anymore. Now it's just like, yeah, trust me, bro. It's going to be fine. We're not going to steal it this time. Promise.
Yeah, I mean, there's a grand irony here. So the minister actually, in addressing Parliament, because you may recall during SONA, the president said, I'm looking for a pen to sign this piece of shit. And the minister, obviously in his retaliation, he came back and he said, there is actually an example which shows us that actually the public-private sector partnership works pretty well, and that's kind of what will happen with the NHI. We'll give this public-private partnership where the government manages the funds, private industry can do their thing, the government department will do everything, but don't worry, the central fund will pay it. Now, the grand irony is that the example he used where the public-private partnership actually worked was COVID-19. Where the government had zero involvement whatsoever in the private industry. So they highlight the private industry did a sterling job, but then forgets to mention that they did a sterling job because they had no involvement from government, and they basically told the government a footsack. Like, these guys are just more retarded, actually.
Well, I mean, not retarded as the private sector during the course of COVID-19. Let us not forget B4SA. Remember the Martin Kingston's outfit that wrote all the regulations on getting a license to do your job, right? Because I mean, that's what the law was about at the time. The pandemic was you can't do any work, you can't earn any money. The 500 billion rand will be taken away from you. But Martin Kingston was there to draft all the economic, economic policies during the pandemic. They wanted to have vaccine mandates all over the place. Like, fuck the private sector during COVID. If that is your example as to why the NHI will not fail, that's the worst example in the world, because the private sector was shit and still is shit during the pandemic and post the pandemic, in fact. So, yeah, screw them both. They both deserve each other in this case, and it's a terrible example to use.
Yeah, so interestingly enough, Ramon, and I would encourage you, dear viewer, if you would like, go back and see our approach to the NHR about 18 months ago, because apparently Efficient Wealth, which is obviously a company that manages wealth in South Africa, they are pretty much now repeating morning shot slogans where they basically say, fear not, the NHR might get signed. It's going to get signed as an electioneering tool. It's going to be a way that they try keep the ANC in the headlines, because once it's signed, it's pretty much going to fizzle out. And Efficient Wealth highlights why, and that is because there ain't going to be any bloody money for it. And the minute it goes out there, it's probably going to be stuck in court cases for the next trillion years. And even more interestingly, they do actually highlight that there's no money for it, because what it would require is a new payroll tax. And the minister doesn't want to do that, because payroll taxes don't win elections. And we're in an election year. So the reality is, even Efficient Wealth is now repeating morning shot slogans, which is, it's probably going to get signed. It's never going to go anywhere, apart from the Constitutional Court, for the next trillion years.
Yeah, the NHI is like a concept that will exist esoterically in the consciousness of people. In 20 years' time, they're going to say, didn't we have a sign a law sometime about the NHI? And then, then you'll forget about it. That's what the NHI is going to be. Just like every other policy the ANC wants to do, it's just going to exist in the minds of ANC members until they die, and then it's going to die with them. So, as we said on this channel many times, don't worry about the NHI. This is retardistan. They can't nationalize anything. They're too dumb to do it, especially not healthcare. And if the best argument for it is, don't worry, guys, we won't be corrupt this time, then like they are not even fighting for the NHI. Like they've given up on it.
Yeah, and if the best arguments of why it would work is, look, it worked the last time during the pandemic when the government wasn't involved. Even the government don't believe that this should be involved. Yeah, this isn't going anywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, it's just an electioneering ploy. But we are in the run-up to an election, so I expect nothing less.